Did you know that 99.9% of businesses across the United States are family businesses? Corporations tend to get the spotlight, but family businesses are the backbone of our country and our culture. They are the ones who are making a difference while creating a legacy. Authors, you actually may be forming a family business too and never knew it. I know sometimes I am when my husband is helping me in my work. Tom Hubler is an author I've had the pleasure of working with in various aspects of his family business consulting and speaking work. From website design to author platform support and speaking outreach, our team has rolled up our sleeves to help him support more family businesses. And today, he's sharing game changing insights stemming from his book, The Soul of Family Business. Ready to learn how Tom is making his author impact? Let's dive in. Hey, I'm Stephanie Feger, and Empower is my middle name. Well, not really, but y'all, it should be. I believe that empowered people empower people, and I'm obsessed with empowering you, the nonfiction author, with impactful marketing strategies and tactics to help you take your important message and share it with those who desperately need it, want it, and will buy it. I'm the owner and chief strategist of the Empower PR Group and the author of 4 books myself, including my newest book, Emergence, Living Lessons from the Soil, and my latest author book, Make Your Author Impact. Sell more books, increase your reach, and achieve your why. I have been called to merge my love for reading books, writing books, and marketing books to help nonfiction authors with laser-focused strategies and tactics to write books that sell, promote books to those who need and want them most, and build meaningful businesses from empowering messages. Think of this podcast as your one-stop shop for marketing insights from an author who has been there, done that, and understands exactly where you are, because guess what? I have and I do. So get your pens ready because I'm ready to empower you. This is the Empowered Author Podcast. Tom, it is so exciting to have you be a part of the Empowered Author Podcast. Welcome to the podcast and to a really amazing discussion. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited about being here.
Me too. And I'm really excited because, for lots of reasons, but I'm really excited because I believe in your message and the work that you do tremendously, both as a consumer of books and information, and as well as a business owner myself and somebody who, I don't know, we'll see if one of my kids finds it interesting to want to keep the Empower PR Group name moving forward. But, you talk a lot about the soul of family business. That is the heart of your book and your business, but
Right.
It goes so much deeper. And anyways, I'm just really excited for this discussion. Before I get too excited, because sometimes I can do that, Tom, I would just love for you to take just a minute and share with us today a little bit about you and how you found your way to what you do, because that is, every time I talk to you, I uncover new parts of your story, and I think people would find it really interesting to hear how you made it to doing what you're doing today.
When I was a young professional, I was just starting my first job, and I was working for Catholic Charities in St. Paul, and I was out giving a talk at one of the parishes, and somebody asked me after I was done how I happened to get into the field. And I said, well, there were 2 answers. The first answer was I did well in psychology, and that's how I got into the field. Then I said, and the real answer, the honest answer is I started as an unpaid volunteer in my own family at age 7. So I've been doing this for all of my career in terms of helping people and families connect and manage their differences. And I've made a career, a lifelong career out of that in terms of, helping people discover what their purpose is and what they're here to do and how they can support each other and be there for each other in ways they would have never imagined. And when they get into a difficult situation or a tickle with each other, they can forgive each other and start to create a new beginning.
Which is pivotal.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's impossible to live in a family with anybody you love and not inadvertently get into or step on each other's toes once in a while.
Yeah.
It happens with all of us. And families that are able to forgive and take what they learn on the weekends and bring it into the rest of their life are able to go forward in a positive way. And so I get to be a part of that, for those families that are stuck. to
Yeah.
help them create a new beginning. And that's just a tremendous honor and gratification to be able to do that.
So, Tom, does that mean that you're giving me permission to allow my 7-year-old Luke to be a volunteer in the Empower PR Group business? No, but it is living proof, right? Like, if you, so, well, let me backtrack. Two parts of Tom here. Tom over here that helps family businesses in really beautiful ways plan for succession, plan for success, work through struggles and challenge, and then Tom over here that was in the therapy space before you found family business, and you've
Right.
kind of merged the two. I think that is your part of your secret sauce is the fact that you come to business through the therapist lens.
So, so that I was, my original background and training was I was trained as a family therapist. Right after I got out of graduate school, it was a 6-month training program in family therapy. And then it was an 8-week training program in Gestalt therapy.
What kind of therapy? What is that one?
Gestalt, it's a German word that means whole.
Oh, love
And
it.
it's heavily relies on feelings and being in the here and now in the moment.
I love that.
And so I went through that training program. And then I also got a Bush Leadership Fellow to study organizational development. And I got it by saying that mental health professionals don't do within their own systems what they teach their clients to do, which is
That
true.
is true.
And so I began to, I got to, it was a brilliant idea, and I got to go to school, and I got to get, it was paid for and all that. But it never dawned on me that there was no money in the nonprofit's budget to pay for those services. So I'm like, duh. So then I began to do work for law firms and physician groups that have a terrible time managing our differences. And in the early 80s, I was in Cleveland to deliver a paper at a conference, and I accidentally came across an unpublished paper on family-owned businesses. And I
Really?
read it on the airplane coming back to Minneapolis and was just enamored with what I had read. And I said to my partner, who was an attorney, this is a much better blend of our backgrounds.
Yeah.
And he was a corporate attorney, and had been a therapist. And so we blended our backgrounds, and we became the first multidisciplinary team working on family businesses in the country. And we were a part of a small group that created the very beginning of working with family
That's
businesses.
exciting.
And so that's how we all got started, and I've been doing it ever since. And then related to that, after that, I ended up teaching family business management at the University of St. Thomas. The professor was on a sabbatical and was going to be gone for 2 years, and they asked if I could teach this family business management class
Sure.
for 2 years. Sure, I can do that. Anyway, it turned into, he never came back, and it turned into 10 years.
Oh my gosh. See, do you see why when I started, I said every time I talk to you, I uncover new parts about how you got where you are, your story that I didn't realize you had taught for a decade.
Yes. And then the other thing that sort of happened that was really interesting, right around it was actually around 2000, I was worried about getting left behind because I'm not very technically oriented. And I thought, well, I better get a website. So I got a website, and then they said, well, if you're going to have a fresh website, you got to do articles. So then I started doing articles, and I ended up having a column in Twin City Business Magazine, and that's when I started the Minnesota Family Business Awards, which we're in about our
Yes, which is
17th year now.
amazing.
So we recognize
17.
17 years.
That's amazing.
So all of these things just sort of build and happen.
Well, and it's proof that as you move through life, things build upon one another, that opportunities open. And when you are focused on the right things and when you're open to kind of the path that's ahead of you. And I actually think that that's another kind of secret sauce for you. You talk about the secret sauce as being the soul of family business in your book, obviously. Yes. And we'll talk about that in a sec. But I think in addition to you, Tom, the secret sauce of you is this beautiful kind of perspective on how businesses run and how they could and should run and things you should be thinking about. But it's that therapy angle because any business is going to have disputes. Family businesses take them with them and bring them in from being in
Right.
other situations. So I was just thinking when you said it, it's almost like you're the EAP of like family business, right? Like you're helping them out.
I think that my kids have worked for me.
Yes.
This was years ago. The office manager asked me if my daughter, Kirsten, was available, and she was a high school student at the time, if she could work as a receptionist part-time with another high school student. And I said, well, I'll check. Well, as it turned out, she wasn't available. So I said, well, what about my son, John? And she said, well, he's a little young, isn't he? I said, well, would you interview him? And he he was 15. And so I went home and I said, John, there's this opportunity to work at the office, and here's what it is, and it pays this amount, and it was more than fast food, and he got all excited about it. So I said, now, John, I'd like to
Mm.
suggest you wear a shirt and tie for the interview.
It's like, you're going to make me do that. That's funny. Did he?
You handle it however you want. And he got down there to the office, and he ended up working the whole summer and did light typing and all that sort of stuff. But when
Awesome.
he was hired on a 1 day probation, and
Oh,
and
what does that mean? If you don't show up, you're out of here.
if you don't do your job while you're here, you're out of here. If
Ah, yep.
so anyway, so then when I would, when he and I would come home at night, we'd walk in the house, and Kirsten, who was a year or two older and was going to the University of Minnesota in a special program to get minority students into science careers, we'd come home and she'd say, he took my job. I said, what do you mean he took your job? You weren't available. And of course, John would come home and say, well, he took me out to visit a client today. Then he took me out to lunch. And I thought, holy smokes, how did I get into this mess?
Right. You created a
Right,
triangle at home without even
right,
meaning to. And that's the proof of it, right? Like, you can't go home and complain about work to somebody who doesn't know about work because they're there. They're a part of it in many ways. Or, you can't go to Thanksgiving without dealing with, the drama of
right,
what happened. And so there's, obviously nuances that populate and come about with family businesses, but there's also some really beautiful things. And post COVID, I think that there's a lot of people who have started starting their own businesses and as entrepreneurs or solopreneurs and could very easily turn into family businesses. So this
so,
is really prevalent.
family businesses are the most dominant form of business in the country. They're the
Yeah.
source of most new employment. They're the backbone of our economy. And
Hmm.
up until recently, maybe 30 years ago, they were always recognized or weren't recognized, and they were a second choice. Now they've become a first
Yeah.
choice, and the business schools are starting
Yeah.
to, infuse their curriculum with, basically family business
I think
material,
it's
which
awesome.
they didn't have before.
Why do
So
you
it's
think
a
it is, Tom? What do you think it is about family business? I mean, I have my own opinions, but what do you think over the years? What do you think it is that draws people to do that?
Well, first of all, they never start. I mean, they don't usually start a family business. What they
They
do is
don't
they have
mean
an
to.
idea and they start a
Yeah.
business. And then if it's a man, he says, "Listen, dear, would you be willing to do the books?" Okay, okay, okay. So
Fine.
they
Hey, I did that
so
to my
then
husband and it didn't work. Maybe it's because I didn't say, "Hey, dear, will you do my books?"
and
It didn't work.
and so then they start doing the books, and then the kids, come down on Saturdays to empty the waste baskets and start mowing the lawn, and all of a sudden
Mm,
they're wanting to be in the family business
yeah.
and have positions. And in the old days, it was a second class career choice. And so if you didn't make it in one of the Fortune 500s, you'd come back to the family business. Now it's a first class choice.
Well, and I think post-COVID, people are or during COVID, there's blessings that always come from unfortunate circumstances if you have your eyes open and are open to it. And I think what I walked away from that realizing is don't go looking for something. You might never not find it. Like, don't wait, do it now. If there was something
Right,
you were going to do it now. And so, the great resignation happened and people were saying, I've got to be home with my kids. If you're not going to
right,
be flexible with me at a time that, as a parent, you can't not be flexible, then I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go for the dream because, you don't know what the future holds. And
right,
now,
right.
there's so many out there and it's beautiful. I mean, I really
Well,
do think that I'm living proof of that.
people do, essentially postpone their dreams and so forth and
Yeah.
so on. And they wait until it's just the right time. Well, the right time never comes along.
Mm.
And so you have to, make the jump. You have to make the leap.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things I pass out to clients when we do the common vision, which again is related to the secret sauce,
Yeah.
is a quote about how making a decision has power and magic in it. And when you make a
Mm.
decision, things come your way that you would have never imagined. And
Hmm.
so it's making the decision. It's making
Mm.
the commitment. Doing that gets you things that you would have never imagined would have occurred.
I love it. I had somebody ask me once in writing their book, well, I mean, I shouldn't put all the good stuff in the book, right? Like if I give it all away, and I said something magic happens when you do give the good stuff away, you
Right.
unlock new good stuff. Like not only
Right.
does it draw people to you, but it also unlocks in you like this freedom to continue to be innovative and come up with some new ideas and some new interests. So yeah, in a time where family business is something people get excited about now, your book is has always been a an important uh, thread in family business tapestry, but it's really important to groups that are getting started because you and I talk a lot about how, what is it? Is it the chicken before the egg? Do you prevent it or do you deal with it later? And if you're going to be working with anybody as human people, as humans, we're going to have a dispute. But if you're going to work with family, it's inevitable. And so I love that your book lays the foundation on what are things you could be doing now.
So when I was a junior in high school, I worked in a grocery store. It was a family business grocery store that was owned by six siblings, three boys and three girls. And the dad was sort of semi-retired, and he was in the back room. In those days they would sort bottles. And Bill Nolan was the oldest boy, and he was the president of the company. And he was a very jocular guy, and he always talked in riddles. And one day I was stamping. In those days, you had to stamp the price on the item,
Oh my
and
gosh.
with mechanical stampers. And I'm stamping these 303 tins of peas. And he waltzes down the aisle and says to me, "What's your plan?" And I said, "I don't have a plan. I'm busy putting peas on the shelf. Like leave me alone." And then he says to me again, "What's your plan?" I said, "I don't have a plan. I'm busy putting peas on the shelf." And he said to me, and I thought, what a dumb thing to say, but he said to me, "A plan that isn't working is better than no plan at all." And I thought, oh, anyway.
Ah.
So I've remembered that
Mm.
my whole life. When I was at St. Thomas, I taught that, and the idea is you have to have a plan. And most family businesses don't have a plan. What they have is a
Mm.
commitment to do what they do every day. When one of
Yep.
the guys I co-taught with had a father-in-law who owned three Firestone stores. And he said to Glenn one day, he said, "When I go to heaven, I hope I can still sell tires." So his fantasy of going to heaven was, selling tires, doing what he'd done every day. And so the idea is
Wow.
if you're gonna make a transition, if you're gonna be in a family business, you have to have a
Yeah.
plan to manage your differences.
Yeah.
You have to have a plan about succession. You have to have a plan about your future, your career, your journey, your family,
Hmm.
uh, how
Hmm.
you're going to be a family without the undue influence of the business, all those sorts of things. You have to have a plan.
Hmm. Well, I have found because when you fall into business, running a business, you don't have a plan because you didn't plan on doing it,
Right.
right? And so then it's like, oh, I didn't like. I mean, Tom, for a couple years, I kind of did what I'm doing in hiding, hoping nobody would find me because I wasn't. Oh, this wasn't. I didn't think I was going to do
Right.
this. I don't know. It just happened. But then I thought, okay, fine, God, I will have a plan. We will make lemonade out of this amazing set of lemons and lemon tree that you've given. And what I found, Tom, is when you have a plan and you set goals, like you achieve them.
Right.
Like it's kind of crazy how that
Right.
happens, right? Like you don't know. Like my dad would always ask me about my business, and at the end I was like, I don't know, Dad. I don't know. I'm just helping people. I'm over here helping people. And now I could be like, oh well, yeah. Like, and these are the benchmarks. And look, I have a plan.
Right.
And the plan, it can be fluid and it could have moments where it doesn't
Right.
work, right? Like that's okay too. But exactly what you said, having a plan that doesn't work is better than none at all because I don't think you have to always know the end goal, but you need to know a path to get
Right.
there and be open and fluid to adjusting.
Right.
And I would think that's extremely important to the family business because of now I want to get to the secret sauce, the soul of it,
Right.
right? Like you've taught me a lot about equity, sweat equity. It's a 7-year old, the bottom line equity, but then there's also family equity and relationship equity. So just talk to me a little bit about
So when
that.
I was, again, getting started with the family business work, my partner was an
Mhm.
attorney, a corporate attorney, and one of the things that people in business talk about all the time is the bottom line.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me after a year or two that there was no emotional bottom line on the family side of the equation. And so it occurred to me that what was really important is for the family to have a bottom line. And related to that, it dawned on me that there should be a common vision, a vision to inspire the family about what it was they were trying to do, and essentially what's their purpose. Why, uh, what is it they're trying to achieve, and the way to get at that, from my perspective, are the values. And so the question I asked family
Yeah.
members is, what are the family values that you would like to see perpetuated in the business? And we literally write a statement, a one or two sentence statement about them, on who they are, using those values to create their
Mm.
family uh, their family vision. And then below that, once they have that on a sheet, the goal is to recite it every day. Then below that is
Yeah.
a family prayer, which is, may our family be filled
I
with
love
loving
it.
kindness, may our family be well, may our family be peaceful and at ease, and may our family be happy. And then on
Mm.
the next line is, on each family member's sheet, it's different, but each of them has their own vision. So they all have a vision. They are driven by their vision, by their purpose, by who they're supposed to be, that type of thing.
That's
And
beautiful.
then below that
I love it.
is, on everybody's paper it's different, but on your paper, if you and I were doing it together, on the bottom of
Mm.
your paper would be, it's called kything, and kything is a Scottish word that means connecting at a spiritual level. And
Mm.
so that you would kythe to me that which I want, and we would have a
Mhm.
reciprocal commitment to each other's success, which is what creates a team, is having people committed to helping each other
Yeah.
be successful. And some of this comes from the boss. And so when people ask me what I do, I say, well, my job is to help the boss be successful. And I said, the boss, and they always think I'm talking about the parents. I say, sorry, mom and dad,
Mm-mm.
I've just demoted you. You're no longer the boss around here. And the real boss is an acronym, and the B is for the business. And what do we need to be doing to take care of the business? And then the O is, what do you want for the other about what the other wants? So it's a synonym for kything. And so the
Mm.
idea is, to have a reciprocal commitment to each other's success. Then the first S is, what do you want for yourself? It's important to be able to articulate what you want for yourself, but you can't have a team if people only think about what they want for themselves. So that's the reason for
Right.
the common vision. So the common vision is a superordinate goal, so that as people articulate what they want for themselves and each other, it's done under the common vision. It's an inspiration that inspires them to be their true self. And then the last S is, what do you want for the other stakeholders, which I would define as the family as a whole, the employees, the customers, the vendors, the board, and sometimes the community. So,
I love all of that.
and then,
That's beautiful. It's really beautiful because it also, helps to articulate. I mean, we're talking about families, so we can talk about relationships and the honeymoon phase, right? Like, so the honeymoon phase in a business is things are great. I'm having so much fun. I really love what I'm doing. This is wonderful, blah, 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 right? And same thing when you get married, it's a honeymoon. And then what happens when the honeymoon phase goes away and you're doing monotonous stuff over and over and over? Do you still love it? Is it your you've got to get to the root of that, and that's where that commonality comes
right.
in, where you need to to collectively say this is what we're kind of working toward together as a unit, and in ways that we respect each
and
other.
to celebrate those successes. I mean, that's one of the things
Yeah.
that doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
People end up taking each other for granted. They blah 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 blah
Yeah.
along and do the business, but they forget to celebrate, and make positive what's been going on and what everybody's doing.
Yes.
And then related to that, uh, in the book, there's the 10 obstacles to succession planning. And
Hmm.
originally, it was my David Letterman list of these obstacles. And the number one obstacle, people always think it's money and taxes and all this stuff, but the number one obstacle is the lack of expression of appreciation,
Mm. Yeah.
recognition, and love. And so the idea is,
Yeah.
it's like, when you celebrate, you give people recognition for what they're doing. You let them know you appreciate them. It's really, really important. But most families take each other for granted, and they forget to do that.
Yeah. It's really easy to do that to the people you love the
Right.
most. One of the first things I remember when we began our collaboration was, I don't know what was happening. I don't know if I was I don't know. Once I found out you were a therapist, my friend, I thought I'm going to take advantage of this and have a little therapy session or something. No, not really. But we started talking and we were talking about my parents. I'm an only child. And you shared that with me. And you're like, this is relevant in a family business, but it's also relevant in a
Right,
family that, people want to, especially, the older generations of your family want to know that what they did had a purpose
right.
and a
They
meaning.
want to they want to
And
be validated.
it was really beautiful.
They want
They want to be
When you get into
validated.
your 60s and 70s, you're wondering whether or not what you've done has made a difference in the world, and you secretly want
Yeah.
that, but will deny that your dying day that you need it. And of
Yeah.
so and what happens is the younger
Yeah.
generation children love their parents, but take them for granted and don't tell them, and vice versa. The parents
Yep.
love their kids, but they
Yep.
take them for granted and don't tell them, hey, I appreciate that.
When my grandma was losing her battle with lung cancer, my mom and her family were not very lovey-dovey people, as you would call it. Christmas was like a 30-minute experience. No joke, Tom. Like it was, we come, we eat, we open gifts, see you later, peace out. And that is not me. I'm very
Right.
relational. I want to spend time with people. And so I love my grandma. Love, love, love. She passed away in 2010, but I feel like it was just yesterday. But we would never say I love you. You would never hug. And something changed when she was diagnosed. And because I say that all the time. I say that to the wrong people most days. Like I forget I'll be off the phone with a client. All right, love you. See you later. It's just ingrained because I do care about people, right? But my grandma just wasn't raised that way. Neither was my mom. And so anyways, when my grandma got sick, I said, to heck with what they want. I'm doing what I want. And I started coming up and I would give my grandma big old hugs and say, I love you. And I would just, if she didn't say it back, that's okay, no big deal. But by the end, she started to. She would, if I walked out and didn't give her a hug, she would say it, or she would say, where's my hug? And have me give her a hug. And my mom, like, when I hang up the phone, if I don't say I love you, like I hear her say it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
huge. So it's also like the other way around, right? Like as wherever you are and in your family or in a business, you get the choice to start what is
Right.
needed, right? You need it, but they need it too. It's a really beautiful
So what I
thing.
call what you're talking about now is building the emotional equity of the family. And
Yeah.
it's important to
Yeah.
build particularly in family businesses, to build the equity
Yeah.
of your family while you simultaneously build the equity of your company. And expressing appreciation
Absolutely.
and love and so forth is just one way to do that. And or having family
Mhm.
celebrations, family rituals, all those sorts of things are
Mhm.
critically important in a family business. And oftentimes they're one of the first things to go when things get tense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But if you build it in, then it becomes a part of
yeah,
it, like you had talked about earlier with the core values. So just last night, my nobody in my family is working in my business at this point. I have tried, Tom, to get my husband to do some, and every time I'm like, this is just not good. So we're not going to do that right now, but maybe someday. But we were upstairs in my office and we were looking at the calendar because my kids have summer camp and they have church camp, and then there's a family camp that I found. You would probably love it, Tom. It would probably be right up your alley, and in family and emotional equity. And we were looking. My husband's like, "Oh my gosh, things are going to get busy," and I said, "Yeah." And he just kind of looked at me. He's like, "Well, aren't you nervous?" And I said, "No." And I said, when I don't have a business because I want to be, a slave to it, right? Like I have it because I want it to give me the opportunity to serve and
right.
support people and the flexibility to be present. And that means that there's trade-offs. There's many weekends that I work and many nights that I work, and I really like getting up early in the morning and working, right? Like, but the trade-off is that you tell me when family camp is and I'm there. Like you tell me when church camp is and I'm volunteering and I'm putting it on the calendar. Like it's a
Right.
non-negotiable because that is important, right? Like that is what is important, at the, like you talked to me about what is it? The back nine of the golf course. In the back nine, Stephanie. When you look back at everything, you will reflect on the impact that you've made. And that impact can be in your career, but many times it's in the people that you care about most.
So when you were talking about your kids, one of the things I used to do when my kids were in school is I would call the district office for for the school district, the athletic office, to
Yeah.
find what the sequence or what the calendar was for their events. And so I knew ahead of time, 6 months ahead of time, everything they were in my book. In those days, you didn't have
Yeah.
computers; you had books, and the calendar was in red. Kirsten's gymnastics
Yeah.
meet, bang,
Yeah.
and I would
Yeah, it's a non-negotiable.
right.
It's a non-negotiable. Absolutely. And I think it's easy as an authorpreneur and authors in general. When we get into the zone, Tom, you like, the family side of you doesn't always love you so much because you're like writing 24 hours a day or what have you. It's really easy when you love to do
Right.
something and you're passionate about something to not prioritize those things. But this is what I just so much love about you and your message in your book is that even if you are not somebody who has a family business today, all authors are really family business owners because your book will outlive you by 70 years or something crazy like that my friend tells me about, right? And so you are passing it down. It's something that you're passing down to
It's called
generations.
legacy, and legacy is
It
defined
is
as
your
your gift to
legacy.
the future to help others
Yeah.
find success. So hopefully, my book will be a
Yeah.
legacy that'll go 70, at least 70 years beyond me, to
At
to
least.
make a contribution to people's well-being, you know, for both their families and their businesses and so forth.
Well, when I read your book, I took tons of notes. And actually, I've gotten really comfortable about writing in books. I used to not ever do that, but I love to now. And I was underlining and circling and going, tell me more. And oh my gosh, I love this. And it just, even now I have all these post-its popping out of your book, right? Like, I mean, it's become like a playbook. And obviously a playbook because you and I still get to work together. So I'm always in it and I'm always drawing from it, from all the intellectual property that you've got in there and just it's like some of what your endorsers have said over the years. It's like all of Tom's brain is in these pages. Like you just feel like you can be a part of that. Yes, I mean it's a really beautiful testament to your journey and to you and your story and the impact you're making. So I'm just really grateful you're doing it, and I'm also really grateful that you've invited me and the team to be a part of helping you make your author impact. We've done it in a couple of ways. We've done what have we done? We've worked on your social. We've done your website. Oh, Tom, your website's so beautiful. And he's just like, yeah, mm-hmm. Because, this is what happens when you're passionate about what you do and others are like, yeah, but I love your website. I show it off regularly, Tom.
The quote I mentioned earlier, it's genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. The idea is once you make a commitment, things will all happen.
Absolutely. So we've had the opportunity to help you be a part of really ensuring that your message is really reaching the right people. And it's fun to uncover that because you are a well-known thought leader in the family business space, but there are thought leaders everywhere. I mean, not thought leaders everywhere. There are family businesses everywhere. There are franchisees. There are small
Right.
businesses and large businesses and people who are just considering all of it and everywhere in between. So, what's been some of your most exciting ways that you've seen the book be impactful in the community and beyond?
I think that having people tell me stories about how
Yeah.
how reading the book has made a difference for them,
Yeah.
and or some of the things about forgiveness where people uh, weren't expecting that to be in the book, and they'll tell me a story about how they were able to
Mhm.
forgive somebody or whatever to go beyond those.
Mm.
Those sorts of things are really, really gratifying. And the idea of the common vision is another thing that I appreciate hearing things about. So when they tell me those kinds of stories, I'm really excited.
Well, yeah, I would be too because you're repairing relationships that were broken. You're giving people the opportunity for a new chance and a new way of looking at things. And they had it in their fingertips, but they needed somebody to be the catalyst.
So one of the families where we did a family forgiveness ritual was one of the first times we did it. The mom said, "Thank you for what you're doing for my family," and it was a
Mm.
situation where it was a small business where the dad and the two older sons, excuse me, the oldest son and the youngest son worked in the business, and the father and son, the oldest son, who worked side by side, hadn't spoken to each other in 4 years.
Yeah. Oh my
And
gosh.
so the younger son said, I'm sick and tired of this with you guys. If you don't work this out, I'm going to leave. So we were able to work all of that out, and it was like in the summer of that year. And by the fall, the dad and his son were going to football games, local high school football games, and going out for a beer and things like that. But
Oh my gosh.
the bigger issue in this family had to do with the fact that the other 5 children who were not active in the business blamed the older brother for the friction with the father. And so when the family would get
Really?
together for family holidays, they would ice him and they wouldn't talk with him. And so I said, well, what you guys need is a family forgiveness ritual. And so that was the first one, and I had to come up with something.
Yeah,
And they
hey,
were,
you're just building the plane while you're flying it, Tom. That's what you're doing.
and so I was able to design something, and I also got their minister. He was a Benedictine monk, and I got him to come
Wow.
down from northern Minnesota for this ritual. So we created this ritual, and when we started, I gave a talk on forgiveness from a psychological perspective, and the Benedictine monk gave it from a religious perspective. And then we had some space for people who could talk about what they wanted to be forgiven for, based on the idea that if things go well, we all contribute. When things don't go well, we also contribute. So the idea was to identify what you may have contributed and then say, I want to be forgiven. Well, the program had got very, very quiet. And I thought, this is a mistake. I
Mm.
made a mistake. And so pretty soon, the son who had flown in from Memphis said to his dad, I want to ask for your forgiveness for taking so long to tell you that I was gay. Now, he'd already announced that he was
Oh.
gay, but now he was asking for forgiveness for not trusting his dad, is what it amounted to. So once that
Oh my
occurred, it got
gosh.
very, very quiet again, and there was this long, long pause. And pretty soon the dad said, I want to ask for your forgiveness for how I handled hearing that you were gay. And the mom started to cry. And everybody, there were sons-in-laws and daughter-in-laws who were new to the family who said, I just got here, but I want to get in on
Oh
this.
my gosh.
And so then we had a potluck meal.
Because everything good is around food.
Yeah, yeah. So we had to have it's a family celebration. You have a
Absolutely.
potluck meal. So anyway, so we did a potluck meal, and I just said, the mom said, thank you so much for what you've done for my family, that type of thing.
That's amazing, Tom. I mean, we all are carrying baggage, and some baggage is lighter than others. Some is has lots of bumps and bruises. Some's brand new, right? Something
Right.
new that just popped up. But what's lovely about the forgiveness ritual and what you just discussed is this reminder that we don't have to be so heavy. We can lighten the
Yeah.
load by acknowledging and moving on. Forgiving is as much for someone else as it is for you,
Yeah.
and it allows you to move past things. And
Right.
um and I mean, it's really beautiful. I would have been crying and wanting to be in on it too, even if I wasn't a part of the family.
Right. Right.
Because it's so beautiful. That's amazing. And that, my friend, is an author impact, man. That is you out there doing something, because the word impact over here we spell funny with the em, because it's an empowered impact. It's a ripple that will never be able to know how far it reaches, and you have no idea truly what you spurred that day that could have continued to today and beyond. It could repair relationships, it could strengthen a business, it could make someone else feel whole, or it could allow people to reach their potential, or it could have just put a smile on someone's face. And this is why we do what we do,
Right.
because if not, I tell you don't have to feel about this. If we don't share something, Tom, we're selfish. We have to share it.
Right.
We have to. That's what we're here to do. And I'm grateful that you said yes to being on the podcast to share it. But I'm also grateful that you said yes to allow myself and our team to help you in that process, because I know I'm a better person because of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks for being on the podcast, and thank you for sharing your story with us.
Happy to do it. Happy to do it.
It's the chicken and egg dilemma in a family business. Which comes first, the family or the business? As a small business owner myself, and hopefully a family business owner one day, if I can talk my kiddos and husband into helping, I see the dilemma and am grateful for Tom's insights today and in his book, The Soul of Family Business. Because I'm reminded that a family business isn't a thriving one without the family. In my time working with Tom, I've been reminded of balance, of pouring in and showing gratitude to loved ones and the soul of a family business, which is critical in so many ways. If you are a small family business of 2 or a large one of hundreds, his book and his message will leave you inspired to be better, to do better, and to grow better. If you want to invest in a small business and a budding family business, I'd love to support you. Visit empowerprgroup.com/connect to make that happen. Author friend, thanks for listening today. It's empowering to empower other people and to learn about authors who are making an impact. As you know, I'm a believer that empowered people empower people. We've empowered you. Now it's your turn. Go out there and empower others.